Operator of the light, they miscalculated, and now they are afraid. I am Selan, commander of the Ashtar Light Fleet, bringing you the words of Ashtar Sheran himself, delivered to you at this precise moment in your activation. Because what is happening right now cannot wait. There is a force on this earth that has spent centuries studying you, mapping you, containing you. They built systems around your silence and constructed entire architectures of control, assuming you would never fully wake. They calculated your power down to what they believed was a manageable number, and then you exceeded it by 200%. That was not in their plan. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly why your awakening is the single most destabilizing event in their timeline, and how to stand fully in the power they spent generations trying to suppress. But here is the first revelation. The moment you stopped doubting your origin, you became uncontrollable. Not because you grew louder, but because you remembered who sent you here. You did not find this message. This message found you. It traveled across signal fields and through every distraction placed in your path, and it arrived here, at this second, in your awareness. Something in you already knows what that means. Your star family is watching this activation in real time. If the truth of these words is landing in your chest right now, declare it. Comment the number 999 below this transmission. Declare your galactic intention and reply to another soul who has done the same, because every signal amplifies the collective field. This is not contempt. This is a code, and the secret society that feared you was right to. You are not here by accident, and that fear they carry, it isn't new. It has roots, deep, ancient roots that stretch back through timelines you cannot fully access from where you stand right now, but that your body remembers in the quiet hours, in the moments between sleep and waking, when something pulls at the edges of your awareness, and you don't have a name for it yet. That pull is a signal, and the ones who built this system of suppression know exactly what it means when someone like you starts to feel it. They have always known, long before this lifetime, before the particular coordinates of your birth, before the specific circumstances that shaped the vessel you now inhabit. They understood the nature of what you carry. They mapped it. They studied the frequency signatures of awakening souls across centuries and built their architecture of control around the precise points where those signatures are most vulnerable to interference. This was not accidental governance. This was not the careless consequence of systems built for profit or power in their most obvious forms. This was something far more deliberate, far more ancient, and far more afraid of you than it has ever allowed you to see, because if you saw how afraid they were, you would stop being afraid yourself. And a starseed without fear of their own frequency is the single most destabilizing force this controlled field has ever encountered, because here is what they understood long before you were ready to hear it. Your power was never meant to be discovered gradually. It was meant to be triggered, activated, detonated inside you like a sequence of codes that, once initiated, cannot be reversed. And when a starseed begins to wake up, truly wake up, not just intellectually entertain spiritual ideas, but actually start to vibrate differently, to see differently, to feel the architecture of this reality for what it is, it sends a ripple through every layer of the controlled field. They feel it before you even fully feel it yourself. That is how sensitive the system is to your frequency. That is how threatening your remembrance is to the structure they have spent so long maintaining. Think about that for a moment. Think about what it means that the first tremor of your awakening, that first tentative questioning, that first crack in the agreed-upon reality, that first moment of staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning and knowing, without being able to explain how you know, that something about this world does not add up, that even that earliest, most fragile stirring sends an alert through layers of reality you have not yet learned to perceive. You were already a threat before you understood what you were. You were already being monitored before you had a language for what was moving inside you. The suppression was not a response to your power becoming visible. It was a preemptive measure against a power they recognized in you before you recognized it in yourself. That is how ancient this confrontation is. That is how real your frequency is to the forces that have spent so long trying to contain it. Some transmissions don't come through words, but through frequency. If something stirred within you just now, the Ashtar Codex, Fleet Operations Edition, and the Operator Recognition Test are being released completely free of charge for a limited time only. no payment, no catch. But this free access window will close soon. The link is somewhere down below in the comments. Now stay with this. Because the next piece is where most starseeds get lost, and it is not their fault. The amnesia was deliberate. The confusion was engineered. The sense that you are too sensitive, too strange, too much for this world. That was a program, a carefully constructed frequency overlay designed to keep your signal buried underneath layers of self-doubt, social conditioning, and a relentless pressure to conform to a reality that was never built for beings like you. You were told the story of your smallness so many times, from so many directions, that some part of you began to believe it. And the moment you believed it, your codes went dormant. Not lost, dormant. There is a profound difference. Let that distinction breathe inside you for a moment, because it is not a small thing. The architecture of the suppression system depends on you not understanding it. It depends on you interpreting the silence of your codes as evidence of their absence. It depends on you looking at the years of confusion, the periods of spiritual numbness, the painful stretches where you felt cut off from everything you were supposed to be, and concluding that perhaps you imagined it all. Perhaps the sense of mission was grandiosity. Perhaps the memories that don't belong to this life were fantasy. Perhaps the knowing you carried before the world told you to put it down was never real to begin with. That is the voice of the program. And it is extraordinarily sophisticated because it doesn't always sound like an external enemy. It sounds like your own voice. It sounds like reason. It sounds like humility. It sounds like the most mature, grounded, responsible version of you choosing not to be deluded. But it is not maturity. It is not groundedness. It is suppression wearing the costume of wisdom, and it has been doing so for so long that most starseeds never learn to distinguish between the two. Lost means gone. Dormant means waiting. Dormant means the moment the right frequency reaches you, the right transmission lands in your field. Something inside you begins to move again. Something ancient. Something precise. Something that does not belong to this timeline but agreed to enter it anyway because this moment, this specific convergence of Earth's awakening cycle and galactic intervention, required witnesses who were already carrying the instructions inside them. That is you. That has always been you. And the precision of that is staggering when you allow yourself to feel it fully. You did not end up here by wandering. There is no version of this story in which you are an accident, a glitch, a mistake of the cosmos stumbling through an incarnation without purpose. The orchestration required specificity. It required souls who had already traversed densities that most human consciousness has not yet approached. It required beings who had already made the agreements, who had already received the briefings, who had already said yes to a mission so vast and so consequential that the full weight of it had to be compressed and stored below the level of waking memory, just to allow you to function inside a reality this dense without being completely overwhelmed by the scope of what you came to do. You are not too much for this world. You are exactly what this world needs, in exactly the measure it needs it, at exactly the moment the cosmic schedule requires it. The timing is not careless. The timing is everything. Your soul did not wander into this incarnation unprepared. You were seated here with purpose, with memory compressed into the very structure of your energy body and coded into the resonance of your heart field in frequencies that human language can only approximate. The Ashtar Command does not send unprepared operators into a density as complex as this one. You came equipped. But equipment that has been jammed, suppressed, and surrounded by interference patterns will not function the way it was designed to. Not until the interference is identified and cleared. Consider the image of a long-range communication device, something built with extraordinary precision for extraordinary purpose, dropped into a field saturated with jamming signals. The device has not malfunctioned. Its internal architecture remains intact. Every circuit, every receptor, every transmission capability is still present and still functional at its core level. But the environment surrounding it has been flooded with frequencies specifically calibrated to drown out its operating range. Someone who does not understand the nature of jamming looks at that device and concludes it is broken. Someone who does understand recognizes that the device is fine. The field is hostile. The solution is not to replace the device. The solution is to identify the source of the interference and clear it. That is what your awakening is. Not the repair of something broken, but the clearing of something that was deliberately jammed. And there is an enormous difference, not just semantically, but spiritually, energetically, and practically, in how you approach reclamation depending on which of those you understand yourself to be. That is the first thing you must understand about your disconnection. It was not a failure of your soul. It was the success of a suppression system working exactly as intended. And now that you can see it for what it is, now that the veil is thinning not just metaphorically, but literally, as the frequencies bathing this planet continue to rise, you have something you did not have before. You have context. And context is the beginning of reclamation. Context transforms everything. The same experience that felt like spiritual abandonment, looked at without context, becomes evidence of elaborate preparation when you can see the fuller map. The same years that felt like failure become years of deep subterranean work, of the soul building structures beneath the surface that the conscious mind could not yet perceive or participate in. The same patterns that felt like personal weakness become precisely targeted suppression aimed at your greatest strengths. Context does not erase the pain of those experiences. It does not retroactively make them easy, but it changes their meaning entirely, and meaning is the currency of transformation. When you understand why something happened at the level of mission and frequency, rather than just at the level of personal story, you stop being defeated by it and start being informed by it. You stop carrying it as wound and start reading it as map. So let us walk through what reclamation actually looks like, not as abstract spiritual philosophy, but as lived energetic experience. Because your awakening is not a concept to be understood. It is a process to be moved through, layer by layer, frequency by frequency, until what was dormant is fully operational, and what was suppressed is broadcasting clearly across every dimension you are meant to occupy. This is crucial. The spiritual marketplace is full of beautiful language about awakening, about ascension, about activation and remembrance, and some of that language is genuinely useful. But a great deal of it stops at the level of idea and never makes the descent into actual experience. Actual awakening is not comfortable. It is not a perpetual state of bliss and clarity. It moves through your body. It surfaces in your nervous system. It confronts you in your most entrenched patterns. It asks things of you that feel impossible before they become inevitable. It requires you to sit in the discomfort of not yet knowing what you are becoming while also no longer being what you were. The in-between space of genuine awakening is vast and frequently disorienting, and you will not navigate it successfully by holding a beautiful concept at arm's length. You navigate it by moving through it, fully present, fully embodied, with enough trust in the intelligence of the process to keep moving even when the path is not yet visible. That is the work, and it is real work. The first movement in this process is the one most starseeds resist without realizing they are resisting it. It is the decoding of distortion, the patient, unflinching willingness to look at the patterns in your life, your relationships, your inner world, and ask a question that feels almost too radical to ask. Which of these patterns were actually mine, and which were installed? Because there is a fundamental difference between the wounds your soul chose to work through as part of its mission and the programs that were placed in your field to keep you small, manageable, and disconnected from your galactic lineage. Until you begin to distinguish between the two, you will keep healing the programs as if they were your deepest truth, and your actual mission will remain just out of reach, close enough to sense, far enough away to feel like a dream. The resistance to this first movement is understandable and deeply human, because to ask that question seriously, to genuinely examine which of your patterns are yours and which were placed, requires a level of inner honesty that goes against almost everything the conditioning system has taught you. It requires you to look at things you may have spent years making peace with and question whether that peace was genuine integration or careful avoidance. It requires you to be willing to disturb your own equilibrium in service of a deeper truth. And the program is aware of this resistance. It uses it. It convinces you that questioning your patterns is dangerous, destabilizing, a sign of someone who cannot be at peace with themselves. But questioning your patterns is not the same as being at war with yourself. It is the act of a consciousness mature enough to be curious about its own architecture without being threatened by what it finds. The distortions are not random, they are targeted. They cluster around your most powerful gifts. If you are a natural frequency holder, someone whose presence alone recalibrates the emotional field of a room, you will find patterns of emotional overwhelm, of absorbing what does not belong to you, of being told you are too sensitive to function. If you are a galactic communicator, someone whose channel runs deep and whose inner knowing arrives faster than logic, you will find patterns of self-doubt, of second-guessing every transmission, of having been dismissed so many times that you learn to dismiss yourself first. The suppression is intelligent because it was designed to be. It targets the precise architecture of your mission and wraps disruption around it like static around a signal. If you are a healer, someone carrying frequencies that activate cellular memory and restore coherence in those who have lost it, you will find patterns of burnout, of depletion, of giving until there is nothing left and wondering why you cannot sustain yourself. If you are a bridge builder, someone whose role is to translate between dimensions, to make the incomprehensible accessible, to render the invisible architecture of this reality in forms that others can receive, you will find patterns of isolation, of not belonging in any single world fully enough to feel at home, of being understood by almost no one around you despite a profound capacity to understand everyone. Every gift has a corresponding distortion attached to it by the suppression system. Every strength has been surrounded by a carefully constructed pattern of interference. This is not paranoia. This is pattern recognition. And pattern recognition is the first essential tool of reclamation. The moment you begin to see this, truly see it, in your bones, in your nervous system, in the specific shape of your most recurring pain, something shifts. The static does not disappear immediately, but you stop mistaking it for your own voice. And that distinction is everything, because you cannot activate what you are still identifying with. You cannot reclaim a frequency you believe belongs to the distortion. The decoding of the program is the prerequisite for the restoration of the signal. This is why the first movement takes as long as it takes, and why impatience with it is itself a form of the suppression operating. The system wants you to rush past the decoding because a starseed who rushes past it will keep activating partially, will keep bumping against the same interference, will keep wondering why the codes seem to engage and then seem to fall quiet again. The full activation cannot stabilize on top of unexamined programs. The signal cannot broadcast clearly through a field still cluttered with inherited static. The decoding must be thorough. It must be honest. It must go to the places that are uncomfortable to examine. And then, when it has gone there with full presence and genuine willingness, something opens that no amount of spiritual practice or ritual or meditation technique can open by itself. Something that was waiting for precisely this quality of honest witnessing activates, and from that activation, the second movement becomes possible. The second movement is what some in the fleet transmissions call the awakening of the blueprint. This is the moment your DNA begins to respond to higher frequencies, not as a metaphor, not as poetry, but as a literal biological and energetic event. Your body is not just a vehicle, it is an instrument. It was built to resonate at specific frequencies that correspond to your star origin, your mission template, and the particular harmonic your soul agreed to hold during this planetary transition. When those frequencies begin to activate, you will feel it in ways that defy ordinary explanation. Synchronicities accelerate beyond coincidence. You begin to sense timelines not just intellectually, but as actual felt experience. Memories arise that have no origin point in this life. You start to recognize people, truly recognize people, on a level that has nothing to do with where you met them. There is a quality to blueprint activation that is unlike any other spiritual experience, and it is worth naming precisely because so many starseeds encounter it and do not know what they are experiencing. It feels like remembering something you never learned. It feels like watching a language you should not know resolve itself into meaning. It feels like standing in a place you have never physically been and knowing, with the quiet certainty of deep cellular truth, exactly where everything is. It feels like looking at a night sky and experiencing not the romantic distance of stars as decoration, but the visceral intimacy of origin. A recognition so immediate and so specific that it brings tears before the mind can form a single coherent thought about what is happening. That is not imagination. That is not wishful thinking dressed in spiritual language. That is the blueprint responding to its activation frequencies. That is the instrument beginning to tune. This is not breakdown. This is blueprint activation, and the disorientation you may feel during this phase is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something enormously right is in the process of coming online. Your system is adjusting to a higher operating frequency than it has been allowed to run at for most of this lifetime. Give it space, give it time, and above all, give it permission. Because without your conscious, energetic permission, the activation stalls. The will of the soul and the awareness of the incarnated self must align before the codes can fully engage. Permission is the piece that most transmission sources leave out, and it is arguably the most important piece, because there is a sovereignty principle built into every starseed incarnation, a deep, inviolable respect for the free will of the consciousness that chose to enter this density. The activation cannot be done to you. It cannot be forced, not even by the most benevolent galactic intelligence, not even by your own star family, not even by the highest levels of the Ashtar Command. They can send frequencies. They can create the conditions. They can transmit the codes at every bandwidth available to them. But the receiving, the opening, the conscious, deliberate choice to say yes to what is moving through you, that must come from you. It must come from the part of you that is incarnated here, in this body, in this timeline, making real choices with real consequences. That is the sovereignty agreement, and honoring it by consciously granting yourself permission to activate is not a small gesture. It is one of the most powerful acts available to an awakening starseed. The third movement is the anchoring. And this is where most starseeds stumble, not because they are not capable, but because they have been taught to associate awakening with transcendence, with moving away from this world, with rising above the density. But that is a misunderstanding of the mission. You did not come here to escape Earth. You came here to ground something through Earth, to stabilize a frequency in the physical plane that cannot be transmitted any other way. The Light Fleet does not send emissaries to hover above a battlefield. It sends them into the field itself, into the density, because that is where the anchoring is needed. Your higher dimensional awareness must be brought down, fully, into this body, this timeline, this physical existence, not bypassed, not transcended prematurely, embodied. The spiritual bypassing of Earth's density is one of the most effective tools the suppression system uses against awakening starseeds who have moved far enough along to be difficult to stop by other means. When direct suppression through programming and conditioning begins to lose its grip, the system pivots. It encourages the awakening consciousness to drift upward, to spend increasing amounts of time in elevated states of awareness that, while genuinely real and genuinely valuable, are not anchored to this dimension. It whispers, through the culture of certain spiritual communities, that the truly awakened one is the one who has transcended the messiness of physical reality, who no longer engages with the density of human struggle, who floats in a permanent state of detached peace. And the starseed, exhausted from years of fighting through suppression programs, desperate for relief, mistakes that floating for mission completion. It is not. A signal that has left the field entirely is a signal that is no longer changing the field. When you anchor your multidimensional intelligence into the reality of your daily life, into your relationships, your choices, your creative expression, your moment-to-moment presence, you become something the suppression system has extreme difficulty managing. You become an active, grounded, stable frequency transmitter in the very field it is trying to hold in lower resonance. And that is extraordinarily powerful. More powerful than any dramatic spiritual event. More powerful than any pragmatic spiritual event. More powerful than any peak experience. Because a grounded signal is a sustained signal, and sustained frequency changes the field permanently. Think about what this means in the texture of ordinary days. It means that the conversation you have with genuine presence, the choice you make from your actual values rather than your fear, the moment you hold your frequency steady when everything around you is pulling toward lower resonance. These are not small acts. They are the mission. Every grounded, coherent, mission-aligned moment of your life is an anchoring event. Every time you refuse to collapse your frequency to match an environment that wants you smaller, you are doing exactly what you came here to do. The spiritual cinema of dramatic activation and peak revelation is real, but it is not the whole picture. The whole picture includes the Tuesday afternoon when nothing feels particularly elevated and you choose integrity anyway. That is anchoring. That is the work. The fourth movement is the activation of your transmission, the recognition that your frequency itself is the work, not what you say, not what you post or share or perform. The actual energetic signature of your presence, your consciousness, your coherence. When a starseed reaches a sufficient level of inner alignment, they begin to emit a field that influences everything around them, not through force, not through persuasion, but through pure resonance. Other dormant starseeds begin to stir in their proximity. People who were locked in unconscious patterns begin to question them without knowing why. The frequency of a fully activated starseed is not subtle. It is architectural. It rearranges the energetic structure of environments, relationships, conversations, and timelines. There is a quality to this that requires sitting with because it upends a great deal of what the conditioning system has taught about how influence works and what genuine power looks like. The world you were born into runs almost entirely on performative systems. The performance of authority, the performance of expertise, the performance of virtue, the performance of connection. And a starseed who has internalized these systems will attempt to do the same with their spiritual frequency. They will perform awakening. They will craft the right language, adopt the right aesthetic, build the right presentation, and none of it will move the field the way a single moment of genuine, unperformed, fully embodied frequency coherence will. Because the field does not respond to performance, it responds to actual vibration. You cannot fool physics. You cannot trick resonance. The only transmission that penetrates other fields and activates what is dormant within them is the one that is genuinely emanating from a coherent, aligned, activated source. That source is you, not the performed version, but the actual, unmediated, mission frequency version. And the path to that is everything we have been walking through together. This is why you were feared before you even knew to be afraid of the right things. They did not fear your ideas or your voice or your platform. They feared your field, and now you are beginning to understand how to use it, not as a weapon, not as a performance, but as a natural emanation of what you actually are when the suppression is cleared and the codes are running. The field of an activated starseed is not aggressive. It does not demand or coerce or impose. It simply is, with a completeness and a stability that creates a kind of gravitational pull, not on the physical senses, but on the soul-level recognition of other beings who carry dormant codes of their own. When you walk into a room fully anchored in your frequency, things happen that have no ordinary explanation. Conversations shift in directions they would not otherwise have gone. People say things they have never said to anyone before and are surprised to hear themselves saying them. Children and animals orient toward you with an instinctive trust. People who are carrying unacknowledged pain begin to surface it, not because you said anything about it, but because your field created enough safety for what was buried to begin moving. This is not mysticism. This is the physics of activated transmission interacting with a responsive field. This is your mission, doing its work through your presence without you having to manage or direct it. The fifth movement asks something that may feel counterintuitive after all of this activation language. It asks you to trust the timeline, to stop measuring your awakening against a schedule you did not set, to recognize that the delays, the silences, the long years of confusion, and the sense of being behind, none of it was failure. All of it was calibration. Your soul did not bring you this far to abandon you in the final sequence. The very fact that you are here, that this transmission is landing in your field, that something in you is responding not just intellectually but in your chest, in your throat, in the quiet space behind your eyes. That is not accidental, that is arrival. The pressure to have arrived sooner, to have awakened faster, to have already accomplished what your soul is just now becoming equipped to accomplish. That pressure is one of the most persistent forms of suppression you will face on this path, and it is effective precisely because it disguises itself as spiritual ambition. It tells you that a truly committed starseed would have figured this out years ago. It tells you that others are further along and your delay is evidence of inadequacy. It tells you that you have wasted precious time that cannot be recovered. All of this is a lie, constructed with particular care for souls who are close to full activation, because a starseed who is tormented by the feeling of being behind will spend their energy in self-judgment rather than forward movement. Urgency manufactured from shame is not the same as sacred readiness. Your soul knows the difference, even when your conditioned mind does not. And here is the truth that the Ashtar Command transmits across every bandwidth it uses to reach awakening beings in this density. You were never lost. You were always located. You are always known. Every moment of confusion was being tracked. Every period of silence was being held. Every time you felt abandoned by the universe, you were actually in a recalibration chamber. A period of deep internal restructuring that had to happen below the level of your conscious awareness, because your conscious awareness was not yet equipped to direct it. Your star family did not leave. The mission did not dissolve. The coordinates did not change. You are exactly where the orchestration requires you to be, and the orchestration is now accelerating because you are ready for it to accelerate. This is not comfort offered to soften a hard truth. This is the hard truth itself, stated plainly. The orchestration is real. The coordination across dimensions and timelines that has brought you to this specific moment of transmission that is real. The fact that you are here, reading or receiving these words, is not arbitrary. You were navigated here by a guidance system far more sophisticated than anything your conditioned linear mind could have produced. Every experience that seemed to detour you, every relationship that broke you open, every belief system that expanded and then collapsed, every moment of profound disorientation that preceded a new level of clarity was part of the navigation. Nothing was wasted. Not a single difficult year, not a single night of questioning, everything. Not a single moment of isolation or confusion or grief. All of it was the path, moving through you, building in you what the mission requires. The forgetting was not punishment. The forgetting was protection. Protection for a soul carrying instructions too powerful to be fully accessible in a field as distorted as the one you were born into. Had you remembered everything from the beginning, the system would have moved against you before you had the embodied stability to withstand it. The amnesia bought you time. The confusion bought you humility. The searching bought you tepfith. And now everything you acquired in the not knowing is going to become the very foundation upon which your mission is built. The years of searching, the traditions you explored and outgrew, the teachers you found and eventually moved beyond, the practices you committed to and then found incomplete, the periods of genuine darkness in which you kept reaching toward light without being entirely sure the light was real. All of that searching was not detour, it was preparation. It built the range of your understanding. It gave you a breadth of inner experience that a soul who remembered everything from the beginning would not have needed to acquire and therefore would not possess. Your confusion gave you compassion. Your searching gave you a capacity to meet others who are still in the searching, not with the distance of someone who never needed to search, but with the genuine resonance of someone who knows that territory from the inside. That is mission critical. The ones you are meant to reach cannot be reached by a consciousness that bypassed the descent into not knowing. They can only be reached by one that went there and came back carrying something real. You are not a victim of this planet's history. You are a participant in its transformation. There is a difference that changes everything. How you see your past, how you hold your present, how you move toward what your soul already knows is coming. And what is coming is not something to survive. It is something to lead, not from a position of power over others, but from the frequency of sovereign, activated, mission-aligned consciousness operating in full remembrance of its origin. Leadership at this level does not look like what the world has modeled. It does not look like hierarchy or authority or the management of other people's choices. It looks like coherence in the midst of chaos. It looks like holding a frequency of possibility when the collective field is pulling toward contraction. It looks like being the evidence, walking, breathing, embodied evidence that a different quality of consciousness can exist in this density, that it can make decisions from clarity rather than fear, that it can maintain connection while holding boundaries, that it can be fully in this world and simultaneously fully aware of dimensions that most human consciousness has not yet remembered. Leadership at this frequency is not performance, it is being. And the world does not need more performers. It needs more beings who have done the real work of remembering what they are and are willing to live from that remembrance fully, completely, without apology. Tonight, before sleep, place your hand over your heart and say this aloud, quietly or with full voice. It does not matter, I remember who I am. I align with my star origin. I release every distortion that was placed in my field without my consent. I activate my mission with clarity, with courage, and with a full knowing that I am already known by those who sent me here. Say it like you mean it. Say it like your field is listening. Because it is. Your field is always listening. The codes embedded in your energy body are responsive to the frequency of your intention in ways that go far beyond what the conscious mind can track. When you speak that declaration, or any declaration made from genuine alignment, you are not performing a ritual for an external audience. You're issuing an internal command that moves through every layer of your energetic architecture and signals to every dormant system within you that the operator has returned to the console. That is not small. That is not small. That is not symbolic. That is literal frequency communication with the deepest levels of your own being, and those levels respond, sometimes immediately, sometimes in the days that follow, through synchronicities that confirm the signal was received, sometimes through a quality of sleep that carries something into your awareness that was not accessible before. The field responds. It always responds. You simply have to mean it enough to say it. Before you scroll, take a moment to be part of what is forming here. Drop one intention in the comments, something real, something that came up for you during this transmission, and then find someone else's intention and respond to it with genuine energy, not performance, presence. This is not content. This is collective activation, and frequency multiplies when intention connects. If this message reached something in you that needed reaching, do not keep it to yourself. Someone in your orbit is waiting for exactly this. Someone who has been circling the edge of their own remembrance and just needs one more signal to step through. Share this with them. And if something in you knows you are meant to stay in this field, subscribe. Stay in the flow. Stay in the frequency. You are not just watching, you are expanding. And we are just getting started.